In this video, I will explain how to calculate the payback period and the discounted payback period in Excel. So let's start with an example of how to calculate the payback period. The payback period is the length of time it will take for a stream of cash flow to recoup an initial investment. So let's consider the following project down here. Let's say in year 0, to get this project off the ground, we have to invest $100,000. So we type in a negative 100,000 in this cell right here. But then over the next 4 years, here's what we expect the project to cash flow each year. Now, in order to calculate the payback period, so how many years will it take to get this initial $100,000 back, here's what we do. We create a new column called the balance. So this is the running balance of cash flows. So for the first cell in this column, we're just going to say it's equal to the negative 100,000. Now, in year 1, the balance is going to be equal to the cash flow in year 1 plus the current balance from the previous year. So once we hit enter, we'll see now our running balance is up to negative 50,000. So we're starting to get more positive. Now what we can do is just take this formula, click it, and drag it down to the remaining cells in the balance column. Now what we're going to notice is that once we hit year 3, all of a sudden the balance turns positive. In other words, we have recouped the entire $100,000 initial investment. But to know the exact payback period, we can see that it took 2 full years of cash flow plus part of another 3rd year to actually get to a positive remaining balance here. So the formula we can use to calculate the payback period is going to be equals, we'll say 2, so we know it's at least 2 years, plus, here's what we do. We take the starting balance from year 2 and we divide it by the cash flow in year 3. And then we close our parentheses. Now notice that the balance is a negative number, so we want to treat it as a positive number, so we'll put a little negative sign in front of this cell D12 in the formula. So this is the formula. Once we hit enter, we'll see that the payback period is 2.8 years. So what that means is it will take 2.8 years to recoup this initial investment of $100,000 using the payback period method. Now let's consider the discounted payback period method. So this is similar. It's the length of time it will take for a stream of cash flow to recoup an initial investment, but we're taking into consideration the time value of money. So let's check out this table here. Again, we have the exact same number of years and the same cash flow as we did for this first example. But the difference here is that for each year, we want to calculate the present value of the cash flow, which uses this formula right here. The present value is equal to the future value divided by 1 plus r, where r is the interest rate, raised to the power of t, where t is time or the number of years. So for the first cell in this column, we'll just say equals the cash flow of the initial investment. Now for this cell, we're going to type equals the future value is $50,000. So we're expecting to get this $50,000 in the future. We divide that by 1 plus, now the interest rate, or sometimes this is called the discount rate. For this example, let's assume it's 8%. So we'll click this cell right here. After you click this cell, go ahead and hit F4 on your computer to lock that cell. Then we'll close the parentheses and raise it to the power of t. So that's the number of years. So we'll click this cell right here for year 1, then hit enter. Then we can take this formula, hover over the bottom right hand of the cell until a little plus sign appears, and drag it down to the remaining cells in the column. So we have the present value of the cash flow for each of the years. Now we just need to go to the balance column and do the same thing that we did in this first example. So for the first cell, we'll just type the present value right there. Then for this next cell, we'll say the running balance is equal to the present value of the cash flow plus the previous balance, which is that cell. So then hit enter. Then take this formula, again hover over the bottom right hand corner of the cell until a little plus sign appears and drag it down to the remaining cells in that column. Now what we can see is that the values in the balance column, they turn positive in the 4th year. So that means it took 3 full years plus part of the 4th year to recoup our initial investment. So for the discounted payback period, we'll use the formula equals 3, so 3 full years, plus the fraction we'll use is the balance from year 3 divided by the present value of the cash flow in year 4, and then we'll close our parentheses. And again, this balance is negative, so let's put a negative in front of that cell to force it to be positive. Then we'll hit enter. And the discounted payback period, so initially it will show up as a currency. We can go up here and change that to general. And we'll see that the discounted payback period is about 3.55 years. So taking into account the time value of money, it will take about 3.55 years to recoup our initial investment of $100,000. So that is how you can calculate the payback period and the discounted payback period in Excel.